Stanley Allen McChrystal is one of the most recognizable American generals of the post-9/11 era, not because he fought a single famous battle like commanders of earlier wars, but because he helped reshape how America fought. His career moved through elite airborne units, the Ranger Regiment, the secretive machinery of special operations, and finally, the political minefield of commanding a long, exhausting war in Afghanistan. Along the way, he built a reputation as a disciplined battlefield leader, a relentless reformer, and, eventually, a cautionary tale about what happens when military culture collides with civilian authority in public. McChrystal's story is complicated. It includes operational success and controversy, respect from peers and criticism from investigators, and an end to his command that arrived suddenly, not from defeat in combat, but from a magazine profile that detonated in Washington. Early life in the path into special operations. McChrystal was born on August 14, 1954, at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Already a clue that the military wasn't just a job in his family, it was the environment. He later attended high school in Washington, D.C., and then entered the United States Military Academy at West Point. In 1976, he graduated and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. His early assignments placed him in the 82nd Airborne Division, one of the Army's most demanding formations. He cycled through leadership roles that sound routine on paper: platoon leader, rifle platoon leader, executive officer, but those years matter because they formed the habits that later defined him: intensity, control, and an expectation that people around him keep up. By the late 1970s, McChrystal took the route that separates standard Army careers from quietly significant ones: special operations. He completed the Special Forces Officer course at Fort Bragg and then commanded an operational detachment, an A-team, inside the 7th Special Forces Group. This wasn't glamorous public heroism. It was the kind of work that trained officers to operate with small teams, high trust, and missions that rarely become public stories. Through the 1980s and 1990s, his career moved through Korea, mechanized infantry units, and then deeply into Ranger territory. He served in the 75th Ranger Regiment, eventually commanding at multiple levels, including the regiment itself. He also studied at the Naval War College and earned a master's degree in international relations, adding academic structure to battlefield experience. Later fellowships at Harvard's Kennedy School and the Council on Foreign Relations placed him close to the policy world that many combat leaders barely touch. An irony, considering how his later career ended. Rising to general officer and becoming a public face of war, McChrystal entered the general ranks in the early 2000s, a period when the U.S. military was being pulled into a new kind of conflict, less about clear front lines, more about networks, cells, intelligence, and speed. He served as Assistant Division Commander in the 82nd Airborne and held key staff roles linked to the early phase of the Afghanistan War after 9/11. When the Iraq War began in March 2003, McChrystal was in the Pentagon, serving on the Joint Staff. In one of the most memorable moments of that phase, he delivered televised briefings and suggested that major combat engagements were largely over shortly after Baghdad fell. It was a statement that fit the mood of that moment and would later feel painfully optimistic given what Iraq became. But McChrystal's real historical footprint came from what happened next: the most secretive job in the military. In 2003, McChrystal took command of the Joint Special Operations Command, an organization that, for many Americans, exists more as a rumor than a real institution. This is the place where missions are built around speed, secrecy, and extremely high-value targets. During his time, Joint Special Operations Command became associated with high-profile operations in Iraq, including the hunt for insurgent leaders. Under his leadership, Joint Special Operations Command was credited with major successes, including operations connected to the targeting of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the leader of al-Qaeda in Iraq, who was killed in 2006. McChrystal was known for being intensely involved, not merely approving plans, but pushing for relentless pressure, fast cycles of intelligence, raids, capture, analysis, and then another strike. Supporters argue this was a turning point in counter-terror operations, not a slow-moving conventional war machine, but a living network that learned and adapted quickly. Some journalists and analysts later credited him with modernizing Joint Special Operations Command into a force built for speed and coordination, helping set the template for how special operations would function in the years that followed. Yet Joint Special Operations Command reputation under McChrystal wasn't purely a highlight reel. Some units tied to his command became the subject of allegations about harsh interrogation methods, especially around facilities like Camp Nama. And then there was a separate controversy that clung to him for years, not because it was secret, but because it involved an American name almost everyone recognized: the Pat Tillman shadow. Pat Tillman, former NFL player turned Army Ranger, was killed in Afghanistan in 2004 in a friendly fire incident. The event became a national symbol, and the handling of information around his death became a serious ethical and institutional crisis. McChrystal was criticized for his role in the aftermath, particularly connected to paperwork and messaging linked to Tillman's posthumous Silver Star recommendation, which omitted the fact that he was killed by friendly fire. Investigations later examined how the narrative was managed, how quickly senior leaders knew the truth, and how long the public went without it. McChrystal, according to reporting and inquiries, was among those who urged caution in public statements while investigations were still underway. But he also became associated with the broader institutional failure of transparency in that case. For critics, it raised questions about truth and reputation management inside wartime leadership. For supporters, it was a complicated bureaucratic and operational mess in the middle of chaos. For McChrystal personally, it became a permanent footnote, a reminder that leadership isn't only about what happens on the battlefield, but about what you allow or fail to stop after the gunfire ends. From the shadow world to the spotlight. After Joint Special Operations Command, McChrystal moved into senior staff leadership as director of the Joint Staff. Then, in 2009, he entered a role that dragged him into the most exposed arena a general can face, commanding the war in Afghanistan. He became the top U.S. commander and also led NATO's International Security Assistance Force. Afghanistan was not Iraq. It had different geography, different politics, different insurgent dynamics, and a public in the U.S. that was increasingly tired of long wars with unclear endpoints. McChrystal brought a counterinsurgency mindset that emphasized population security, coordination, and the idea that warfare was not only kinetic, it was psychological, political, and informational. Not long into his command, a major assessment he prepared became public. The message was stark: the war could be lost without more resources and a change in approach, but success was still possible. He also publicly floated the need for significant troop increases, with numbers frequently discussed in the range of tens of thousands. To some in Washington, the public pressure felt like a general boxing elected leadership into a corner. To others, it felt like honesty in a war where denial was the deadliest habit. Either way, Afghanistan showed what happens when military reality meets political reality. McChrystal was operating in a system where every request, every sentence, and every leak could become a headline. And then came the headline that ended it all: the Rolling Stone moment. In 2010, a Rolling Stone article portrayed McChrystal's inner circle as dismissive and mocking towards senior civilian officials, including Vice President Joe Biden and other figures in the administration. The story created a public crisis because it wasn't about tactics or troop levels. It was about respect, discipline, and the fundamental rule in democracies: the military answers to civilian leadership. McChrystal issued an apology. But in situations like that, apologies don't erase the political problem, they confirm the damage. President Barack Obama recalled him to Washington and accepted his resignation as commander in Afghanistan. In the blunt language of power, the decision communicated something larger than McChrystal himself. No matter how skilled a commander is, public contempt for civilian leadership is unacceptable. General David Petraeus was named as his replacement, and McChrystal's operational career, which had been climbing through the most influential roles in modern U.S. warfare, stopped in a single week. Shortly afterward, he announced his retirement from the Army. The inquiry and the aftermath. After the Rolling Stone fallout, the Department of Defense Inspector General reviewed the matter and concluded there was no evidence of wrongdoing by McChrystal or his associates, though it also challenged aspects of how the article depicted events and conversations. Rolling Stone defended its reporting. The disagreement itself is part of the modern information war, competing institutions arguing not just about what happened, but about who controls the story. For McChrystal, the more important reality was simpler. Regardless of the inquiry's fine print, he was out. And in Washington, outcomes matter more than explanations. The battlefield changes, technology evolves, but leadership, true leadership, remains timeless. If you value discipline, mindset, and the lessons forged in conflict, subscribe and continue the journey. Because leadership is never an accident. This is Battlefield Chronicles.